The draft starts at this pick. I'm going to tell you what that pick or that person is here on Locked On NFL.
The barbershop is open and Tony Wiggins has a chair for you. He's ready with some real NFL talk. The local experts of Locked On bring their expertise, and Wiggy is ready with his clippers and shears. Sit down and enjoy. The new Locked On NFL starts now. Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Make no mistake about it, it is your team every day. I am Tony Wiggins, the host of the barbershop here on Locked On NFL, and he's my Friday co-host, Matt Williamson from the Pick Six podcast. Let me tell you what we're going to do today. We're going to talk about the NFL draft and where it starts. At the end of the show, the Buckeyes went crazy at their workout. In the middle of the show, the Puka Nakua effect. But at the very top, the draft starts where? And it could be a pick or it could be a player. But at some point, Matt Williamson, this draft is going to get weird. It's going to get weird. And none of the mocks, the most I've ever hit in a draft is 8 picks. And I hit the last 3. That was like in 2002. That was a long time ago. But I hit the last 3 players. Let me show you how long ago it was. There was an edge rusher out of Purdue by the name of Spencer. And he either went to the Chargers. Yeah, he's one of those tweeners, the 6'3", 250 pounds. That was a long time ago, but I hit the last 3, and the most I ever hit is 8. That's because it gets weird, man. And I got a feeling it's going to get weird. Not at pick number 2, but the Jets are a team that can make this thing weird because they have 2 first-round picks, and that player might be Ty Simpson. Check this out.
I think the danger is it's very easy to talk yourself into the idea that if you need a quarterback, you got to draft a quarterback. You know, the idea we're never going to get good unless we roll the dice on a quarterback. And to an extent, that's true. The problem, though, is that if you take the wrong quarterback, you're setting your franchise back. And it's better to pass on a good quarterback than it is to take the wrong quarterback.
Okay, so I agree with Butchko. You're always, every team that doesn't have a quarterback is always on this trek, if you will, to find a quarterback because you know you're not going to be sustained until you find it. But I disagree that you're going to set yourself back because the Vikings don't feel like the Vikings had a 1-year setback. They got Kyler Murray. They feel like they're going to be okay. It's not like the Sam Bradford deals. It's not like where these dudes were coming out and they're getting these $100 million deals and they're setting you back salary-wise as well as commitment-wise. But I do think that when you draft a guy, especially in the first round, and he doesn't pan out quickly, man, it really is a little bit of a reboot, but it's not as bad as it used to be.
Yeah, and I've done a lot of work on Simpson lately, as you can imagine. Steelers could be related. I don't think that's a path they're going to take. I think he'll end up with the Jets or Cardinals in some capacity. But I agree with you. It doesn't hurt you that bad, especially if you're the Jets, because they have 3 first-round picks next year. And if he's terrible and he doesn't have that much experience, and those guys usually really struggle more so than most rookies, and he doesn't have the best supporting cast if he ends up in New York. But if he's terrible, trade him to the Rams for a 3rd-round pick and then draft Arch or whoever at 2 or 1 or 3. I mean, I don't see any problem taking the bite of the apple there. Not the 2nd pick.
No, especially if you have an alternative where he's not going to necessarily play right away. And there's still a chance that the Jets actually go out here and do something else. I don't think they're going to do anything else other than Geno Smith. But Geno Smith is a good little starter for you while you're building your team. If it sets you back a little bit, it's because you used the pick on him and it didn't work. But you could have used that pick on something else that could have fortified your team for whenever the next guy, whether it's Arch or whoever. That's the only thing. You missed an opportunity to fortify your team, which leads us to our second team, the Arizona Cardinals, because a lot of people believe this is actually the spot where the draft will start. Most folks figure they know who the Jets are going to get. It's 1 or 2 or 3 players. It's not a quarterback, but it's not going to change the trajectory of the draft because it's the number 2 person. Mendoza's a done deal, everyone believes, to the Raiders. At number 3, if it's not quarterback, which I don't think it is, they could go edge. They could go tackle. They could go wide receiver. They could even go running back. So the reason why I'm talking like that is because my man Alex Clancy from Locked On Arizona Cardinals, he is so glad they did not do something in free agency. Check this out.
The Arizona Cardinals are going to have to find their quarterback outside of Malik Willis because Malik Willis is now a Miami Dolphin. What does that mean for the Cardinals quarterback room? Well, I've been saying for a long time, I'd be perfectly fine if they ran it back with Jacoby Brissett. He's still under contract. Everybody knows him. He made Michael Wilson get a second contract from last year. Trey McBride ate as well, even though a lot of it was during garbage time for their offense. This is the right move for the Arizona Cardinals to pass. $45 million guaranteed for Malik Willis over 3 years in Miami. This is a huge sign that the Cardinals know they have bigger needs elsewhere than to take a flyer on a dude who's thrown less than 150 passes in his 4 years as an NFL player. This shows a bigger picture understanding that signing the, quote, hottest quarterback on the market, talent-wise, to a number without any sort of real understanding of what he could be as a starter and allocate those funds to the offensive line and elsewhere. This is a big non-move by the Arizona Cardinals.
That's the point that we were actually making, Matt. You got to pass up and sometimes just continue to build your team. I agree with that part about Alex. Here's where I give Alex a little bit of pushback, though. These same teams actually evaluated Malik Willis 3 years ago. When he came out in the draft. So Monty Ossenfort has a book on Malik Willis, right? And that's probably why he showed some interest. It's not just what he has done in the NFL, but it is what he hasn't done in the NFL. And what he hasn't done is show you that he's a flame out, that he can't play. And you add what the little bit of a sample size that you have seen in addition to what you thought about him when he came out in the draft, I think that's a more indicator, because Monty Ossenfort didn't just fall out of Mars. He was here 3 years ago doing his job, right?
Oh, yeah.
Whether it was in Arizona or Tennessee. You combine those things and you listen to coaches that stand on the table for people.
Yeah, I disagree with this take on Willis, and I love Jacoby Brissett. I'm fine running it back with him, or this isn't a knock on him in any way. I think he's had a really good and underrated career, and teammates love him, and he's tough as could be and smart, and I mean, all that good stuff. But to me, I said the same thing about the Steelers. Like, Willis is the only thing out there that could have possibly be your quarterback answer. And all he costs is free agent money, and it really wasn't that much. And if you're the Cardinals, what else are you spending it on? You know, you don't have like this wealth of young guys that you have to extend and cash strapped. I mean, you're one of the worst organizations in the league. If you can steal a franchise quarterback for $25 million a year, and again, if he stinks, you draft someone next year anyway. I mean, like, it's just like Justin Fields with the Jets. If he would have been awesome, great. If he's terrible, no one cares. You know, just move on. Yeah.
Yep. You move on. And there's a tremendous difference between drafting Ty Simpson, and signing Malik Willis, because you haven't seen Ty Simpson do much of anything, even in college. You at least have a large body of work in college, the entire process of the draft, and then did he or did he not substantiate, elevate, or lower the way you felt about him when he came out in the limited amount of time you actually did see him play with Green Bay. And so what I'll tell you is this: he was better than Will Levis, and Tennessee gave up on him and took Will Levis. They took a flyer on a kid that can't play. Okay. The other thing is he came off the bench cold and played well in the National Football League with a whole bunch of hyenas chasing him. That tells you something about him, that he's a little bit more ready to go and can at least get your team on the path of functionability. We're going to keep going.
And we know he has ability.
Yeah, we absolutely know that.
Yeah.
We're going to keep going. We got a couple of teams that have multiple picks in the first round. One, the Rams. And they've been trying to trade for A.J. Brown when they already have two really good receivers. Well, you might know why now, because Puka Nakua has found himself allegedly in a little bit of trouble. We'll get to that in just a second here on Locked On NFL. Workplace chaos, deadline stacking up, inbox overflowing, and that one position you have to fill is still open. Well, when the pressure's on and you need the right hire, this is a job for sponsored jobs. Indeed, Sponsored Jobs helps you reach the people who actually fit what you're looking for: skills, experience, and location, so you're not just hoping the right candidate stumbles across your post. Here's a stat that says it all. In the time that it'll take me to finish reading this, 27 hires have been made on Indeed, according to Indeed data worldwide. So if you're hiring, spend less time searching and more time interviewing candidates who check all your boxes with Indeed sponsored jobs. Spend less time searching, more time actually interviewing and helping you get through the chaos and cut through all of that foolishness. This is a job for Indeed sponsored jobs, and listeners of this show will get $75 in sponsored job credit to help your job get the premium status it deserves at Indeed.com/podcast. Just go to Indeed.com/podcast right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? This is a job for Indeed sponsored jobs.
Mm-hmm.
All right, we're kicking around here with my man, Matt Williamson, of the Pick Six podcast that he does each and every, multiple times every week with Brian Peacock, and as well as works for the Pittsburgh Steelers radio network. All right, we're talking about the draft, man, and where the draft starts. There's some other teams, the Rams. The Rams used to have 2 first-round picks. They don't, because they gave up 1 for Trent McDuffie. They've fixed their secondary. I was wondering why they were nosing around wide receivers so much, man. It couldn't just be a third wide receiver, but maybe it is. They feel like they fixed their defense and they get a little younger. Or maybe because of podcasters showing up and a little bit of some things being said that they're looking at Puka Nakua with the side eye a little bit. Now, these are all allegations, but we're going to play this from Locked On Rams because it could absolutely have an effect on the draft from a business standpoint.
The Los Angeles Rams wide receiver is facing allegations that he bit a woman and made an anti-Semitic comment while at a New Year's Eve party this past December. According to TMZ, a woman filed a temporary restraining order against Nacua due to the incident 3 months ago, alleging that he bit her thumb and then her shoulder, breaking the skin and leaving an imprint of his teeth on her shoulder. The woman also claims that Puka made an anti-Semitic comment while out at dinner, which was the first act in what became an escalating course of rude, vulgar, threatening, violent, and harassing conduct. TMZ reports that Puka Nakua's attorney called the claims nothing more than a shakedown attempt, and the restraining order was denied by a judge, though another hearing is set for April 14th.
Could this have any effect on it? Yeah, sure. It could have an effect on the draft. If the Rams were already looking around at wide receivers, this could actually make them do that again at 12.
Yeah, so Peacock and I have talked about this a lot. So, as you mentioned, I think they fixed their secondary to the nth degree. Really nice work. I mean, they made the biggest weakness on the team now a strength. They're loaded in the secondary. Good work. Okay, so they have this one more pick. And Peacock and I have been saying, the responsible move, if you're the Rams, is take one of these tackles. Take Freeling or somebody like that. Prepare for the future. They're one of these teams that I actually believe isn't going to pick high anytime soon. They're doing it because they have the Falcons pick. We know you can't get tackles when you're a playoff team or picking in the 30s, so you take the tackle. But even before this Nacua stuff, we kept throwing out, hey, Stafford might only have 1 more year. McVay might only have 1 more year and hang it up with Stafford. I don't really care about the responsible thing. I'm going to take the best wide out anyway. Adams is up in age. And then JSN signs a monster deal. And you know Nakua's agent's going, I want that exact same deal plus $1.
Yep.
And then the Rams are going, well, if you're biting people and doing weird stuff, I'm not giving you that contract. So I'm going to draft one instead, you know?
Yeah, and wide receiver, we're used to wide receivers being divas, right?
Yeah.
But now we're getting to the point now where your name is being mentioned too much. Getting guys going on podcasts, getting guys in the locker, and then you're in LA. There may be a part of this, and I do believe that if it was me, it would give me cause to pause. The reason why is because, wait a minute, you're in a big city, and it seems like, and I know this is, I'm not a shut up and dribble guy. And you can make your money because football players have helmets on. It's not like basketball players. They don't make off the field money. But you can't be in love with that too much. And you really can't be in love with that too much in New York, LA, Houston, and Miami. You got to just be able to. One thing, we talk about Jackson Smith and Jigba. Yeah, they're comparable. But guess what you don't hear about? Jackson Smith and Jigba doing wild stuff, or his name constantly being mentioned in a whole bunch of rigmarole. So that's the thing that you have to monitor and figure out. Does this, because of geography and where we are and Hollywood and the lights and all of the streamers and I'm a podcaster, but does this play into the long-term effect of our football team? I'll tell you where a culture shift has happened. And there's some people saying, well, they ain't done nothing but just get rid of a bunch of stuff. But the Miami Dolphins hired their new GM who hired a new coach. And now they're doing things the old school way where we're getting rid of bad contract. We are gutting all of these things. All of those Ferraris, we open the garage and let them drive right on out of here. And now they're off and running. Let's see what Kyle Krabs has to say about their rebuild, because they do have, I think Miami has 2 first-round picks, if I'm not mistaken. I know they Yeah, they have 2. What will they do? Will they go the infrastructure route in their draft?
If you think about John Eric Sullivan and where he's come from with his time in Green Bay, they consistently spend at least one top 100 pick on an offensive lineman. That's been a pretty consistent trend. They like to go there early. I would expect the Dolphins to go to that well early as well, especially with kind of the communicated desire to build this thing inside out and build the trenches, right? And I know us as a fan base, we're obviously very, very hungry for that to manifest.
All right, so if that's what they're going to do, they're off to a good start without even being off to a good start, because Brewer, their center, is a very good player.
Yeah.
That left tackle has shocked a whole bunch of people with how good he has been in Miami. They're going to get Eichenberg back too. He can play guard or tackle. And then Sealer on the other side of the line with a young Chop Robinson. They got a little bit of a nucleus to start building this thing inside out the way that they want.
Yeah, and we can give the last staff some a hard time, but I think last year drafting Grant and Big Jonah from Arizona and signing Brewer, they realized, hey, we do need some dump trucks. So they at least started that ball rolling, you know?
Yeah, and physicality can't be something that you dress up like a Christmas tree. It just has to be the tree, not the ornaments. It has to be who you are. Mm-hmm. And so that's why 1 year doesn't fix it. It's like needing speed and just going and drafting a fast wide receiver and saying, there you go, there's our delegated fast guy. Doesn't happen like that. When you have speed, you have it all over, and it's what you lead with, and we'll see how Miami ends up doing this. Now, we're going to get to the last segment. The last segment is going to be Buckeye crazy, because we're going to talk about the Bengals and who they could pick at 10 and whether it would really, really, really shake this draft up. And then at 7, right before that, Washington picks. And oh my God, the floodgates open. They could literally take one of 6 different positions. We'll talk about them and hear about the Buckeyes Pro Day in just a second here on Locked On NFL. And today's show sponsored and brought to you by Home Chef. This time of year, where all you really want is something warm, easy, and satisfying, man. That's why Home Chef has become a go-to. It takes the stress out of dinner and makes it simple to actually enjoy cooking again. Like, I got to get that out right. Home Chef makes cooking easy with fresh, pre-portioned ingredients, simple recipes, and meals that taste great. What is your favorite part? What is the most convenient thing about preparing dinner? Well, it has to be quick. After a long day, you need, within 30 minutes of getting to the crib and getting all cleaned up, you need to eat. And there's a whole bunch of variety, man, and with recipes from people like Gordon Ramsay and Giada De Laurentiis, who I used to watch on the Food Network. Everything's portioned out, so there's less prep and less cleanup. It just takes dinner to a higher level and makes it feel real manageable. For a limited time, Home Chef is offering my listeners 50% off and free shipping for your first box, plus free dessert for a lifetime. That's right. Go to homechef.com/lockedonnfl. That's homechef.com/lockedonnfl for 50% off your first box and free dessert for life. But you must be an active subscriber to receive that free dessert. And today's show is brought to you by 5 Hour Energy. Look, man, the bracket's going on. We got another bracket for you. 5 Hour Energy has a flavor draft, right? With the draft on its way, you got to narrow it down and pick and choose. They have 18 different flavors to choose from, including new options like Confetti Craze, my personal favorite, which is Fruity Rainbow, and they even have one for cotton candy. There's something for everybody, man. The board is set. The flavors are ready. And I've got my number one pick already in the 5 Hour Energy flavor draft, and that is fruity rainbow. Just love. I'm a fruit person, first of all. So I love the taste of sweet and citrus. I even love it so much because it doesn't have any sugar. It gives you a boost with 0 sugar. So that means less crashing, right? 5 Hour Energy has a lot of upcoming flavor innovations planned, man. Just go and check them all out, just like a bracket or just like a draft. However you want to look at it, make sure you get the 5 Hour Energy shots as quick as possible. They're my go-to. Find your new flavor of 5 Hour Energy shots available online at 5 hourenergy.com or at Amazon. Turning down the stretch here on the barbershop. I got my man Matt Williamson here to talk NFL draft and what's going on. The Buckeyes went crazy. All of the Buckeyes showed up and showed out at their workouts. Caleb Downs, wide receiver Carnell Tate, of course, Arvell Reese, Sonny Styles, Lorenzo Styles, his little brother, and Caden McDonald. All of these dudes, man, that are going in the first round, you're like, man, they didn't win the national championship, and they got Jeremiah too. Why? How could they lose? You know what I mean? But one team that's sitting in a prime position at number 7 is Washington, because when you look at Washington, it is really BPA, best player available. They may target someone. They were at that workout. Dan Quinn was at that workout. It's almost like, okay, who's going to fall to us? We need defense in the worst way, but guess what? We could use a running back if he's a legitimate running back to be one of the top 5 or 6 guys in the league to make our offense more dynamic. We're going to run a little more power this year as opposed to what we've been doing in the past, because the running back needs to be running, not the quarterback. But we can also fortify our offensive line or move back, because Washington doesn't have a second-round pick because of a whole bunch of trades they made. They can just sit there literally and take anything. Let's listen to David talk first about what he saw at the Buckeyes workout in Ohio State.
Arvell Reese, just if there's any doubt out there, any question out there, again, from my 2 feet, my 10 toes standing on the same field that he was standing on doing his workout, absolutely crushed it, absolutely killed it. Don't need to make it about, is he better than somebody else, or is he this, or is he that? I'm just telling you right now, he is a bona fide top 3 talent in the NFL draft, should be number 2 overall. Also, safety, Caleb Downs, my second takeaway from the pro day here in Columbus, Ohio. That dude can cover a lot of ground. I'm back on the Downs to watch.
All right, I think Caleb Downs is a very, very good player. Honey Badger, he's in that Honey Badger. He's in that Eric Berry category. Ooh. Okay, what is he? I've been loving him since high school. He's just that good, right? Nick Saban is a defensive back coach by trade. Caleb Downs started from the day that he walked on campus at Alabama. That's pretty good, in my opinion. He was used in a different way. Not only him, but a lot of these dudes. Sonny Styles used to be a safety. I got a problem sometimes when you move a guy who gained all that weight at the end of his college career. The Simmons kid from Clemson, he did the same thing. If you are the GM in Washington and you're sitting there and you got both receivers on the board, Downs on the board, I'd say Styles and Reese are gone. And you get the kid from Texas Tech, the edge rusher.
Bailey, yeah.
Yeah, Bailey. You get Jeremiah Love. You get your choice of wide receiver. And let's just say Muyaga, the guard, is still there for Miami. What do you do, bro? Do you move back 3 spots to go to 10, get that extra second-round pick back, or try to get that second-round pick, or you just take best player available?
Yeah, and months ago, I've been saying the Bengals, the Cowboys, the Commanders, they're just going to take the best defensive player at their pick, no matter what. I mean, but now, and you mentioned it, I mean, other than McLaurin, their receiver room's really rough. I don't know if Ayuk's going to end up there or not. Love would be so appealing, and I know he's different than Derrick Henry, but defending Daniels and Love reminds me a lot of Henry and Lamar just in the run game. Like, there's no right answer. All the read option stuff, I don't want either one of these guys carrying the ball. And they still could go with any of those defensive players you mentioned. I didn't realize till you just said it that they were lacking a second-round pick, because they do have a lot of needs. 4 of the guys we're talking about are going to be there. I mean, if they can move down 3-4 spots and still pick up something on day 2, that's the move to me. But I don't think Reese is going to be there. To me, he's the slam dunk. I probably would take Styles over the other names we've mentioned, but I don't think there's a wrong answer. And rarely do I say that. And frankly, I don't like the top of this draft this year, but I do for them.
You know what? I forgot. Mansour Delane, the corner. They could snatch him up too. Because when the game is going back to the run on offense, that makes big plays a premium. And you got to get corners that can shut down those big plays, but also make those big plays on the other side of the ball to turn the field, because it's going to come down to a game of possessions with everybody trying to run the clock and bleed the clock the way that they're kind of turning back to. It's kind of taking us back to the old NFC East that you and I remember back in the late 80s and early 90s.
Oh, yeah.
Here we go. Let's get to the Cincinnati Bengals, who pick at 10. You can't screw this up if you're them. I mean, can you? They're close to the playoffs and they're picking 19th or 18th, and they're doing that because Joe Burrow got hurt and Joe Burrow came back and they almost made it. Well, this year, that's not a problem.
Mm-hmm.
This year, it is almost like we don't like the top of the draft, but I do like the first 12 selections, and I do think that it's a slam dunk, easy scouting that you're going to get a good player if he's aligned with what you do. Here's the guys from Locked On Bengals.
For me, Downs makes all the sense in the world because he addresses a lot of the secondary questions, and then hopefully helps you become it becomes an elite part of your defense. I do think that the two corners are intriguing. I would have love over both corners, but corner's a premium position. I think that the McCoy-Delane debate is really interesting. I'm more in of the two. I'm more in on McCoy from a player standpoint. I think he is a better player. And it comes down to the health, which is something that hopefully he can answer over the next 5 weeks or so before the draft, because if he is healthy.
All right, so they signed Boyd Mafe, who I thought that was a good signing to me for them. And they got Brian Cook. He's a very, very good player at safety.
Yeah, I like that, man.
I love Caleb Downs, but I wouldn't double dip at safety with my biggest free agency signing as well, even though that was a real weakness for them. And it's funny, if they would double down, that you couldn't convince them to re-sign Jesse Bates a few years ago. And if they had, they wouldn't be in this situation. But since I already went safety, I'd probably go corner with Delane if I have a choice between those two.
I hear you. I don't know if Styles would be available, but I think their linebacker position's the worst in the league. I mean, they took 2 mid-round picks and threw them in the mix, and they both look terrible. So I don't know. I'm definitely going defense. Downs would be really hard for me to pass up. I understand your conversation because I like the safety they signed as well. And I just think corner's a little stronger than safety for them. I wish there was a defensive tackle worth taking. There isn't. They could still go back to edge if there's a Bailey or somebody like that as well. But they usually take the bigger guys that aren't productive. That's not really their bag. It's usually like Falk or somebody like that. So I think they could screw it up. McCoy would worry me. I mean, we talked about how you can't screw it up. There's going to be a lot of options, but what if McCoy's not healthy, or if they go for Falk, who's just not productive? I mean, they tend to screw things up on defense pretty well.
Man, if this thing goes a certain way, like if no one bites on a wide receiver, right? And they're sitting there and the 3 best players on the board as a wide receiver, it would be the most Bengal thing ever to me, because they ain't going to take no wide out. At that point, you wouldn't. That's when they would probably need to. I'd say, okay, I call the Jets. If the Jets didn't take a wide receiver, which they shouldn't, it should be Arvell Reese. I say, hey, man, y'all at 16, y'all got a bunch of picks. Come on up here and get the best wide receiver in the draft and let me just sit back at 16. And then that's when I'll take my chances if you're Cincinnati. But I think when you're Cincinnati, the closer you get from the top, the worse it gets, because they have a terrible track record of being able to team build. We don't have a terrible track record here, because me and Matt, we bring it to you every single Friday here in the barbershop on Locked On NFL. Look down in the description, man, and click on the Everydayers Club, because you can become an everydayer for as little as $5 a month. You'll get ad-free shows that go out to our audio partners, as well as access to our merchandise and so much more. Make sure you check Matt out at the 6 Pick Podcast with Brian Peacock right here on our network. Check me out at Locked On Jaguars. Tyler Rowland to have you early in the morning on Monday, man, and breaking it down like a double shot of espresso. We are the #1 sports podcast network. We appreciate you. It's always your team every day. We thank you for making us your first listen.